Hey, kitty.
All right.
We have to start this out. Like, here's the thing.
Well, look at that. We might as well... That's where we have to go.
Where?
We might as well... The orange circle.
So you're saying we might as well
We
go
might
here.
as well get all the viewpoints on our way up there.
Yes.
There's 3 of them.
Someone was like, are you guys trying to 100% this game? Or, like, what's going on here, basically, in today's part that we put up?
The answer to that question is... Where's Kitty?
What's Kitty eating? Like a piece of paper?
He's eating paper.
My cat is in here today because she was whining and crying because my mom left the house. So she was sitting in the entryway crying up a storm. And as soon as I opened the door, did you hear her, by the way?
No.
When I opened the door, she looked at me and she went, meow, 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 meow. Like 4 different things that she had to say.
And then she now comes into the room, and the first thing she does is eat paper.
And want to leave.
Yeah, except for now I'm holding her.
Alright.
Hey, Kitty. Are you playing Assassin's Creed 2?
Okay, tell everyone how you say anniversary, because I want to hear if it's a worse offender to them than roof.
Anniversary.
Like SH.
Yeah, like anniversary.
Okay. I'm just interested to see what the roof crowd thinks here.
The roof crowd are proud people.
They're not oppressed, though. That's
They're not.
gamers.
Gamers are very oppressed, actually.
Gamers are the most oppressed group of people. When people have, like... Okay, look, I'm not saying we take a month away from anyone, but all I'm saying is maybe we make a Gamer Oppression Awareness Month.
I actually agree with that, yeah. I'm on board.
You think so?
Yeah, what month should it be?
As soon as possible.
Okay, so well, right now is May when we're recording, so like...
Okay, like, I'm
June?
just saying maybe we take June through December.
June through December, okay.
Yeah, it's Gamer Oppression Awareness Year.
Oh!
But it's every year.
Okay, well, what if we have, like, January through, I don't know, December?
Oh, geez, I just, like, phased my head through that.
Oh, you part of the FaZe clan?
I phased my head through that harder than FaZe Banks. Hey! But also, yes. I say we just take year round.
Okay, yeah. What, and all the... Okay, let me try that again.
Are you okay?
Me trying to say a sentence.
Pretty much, but it's alright. We still love you, kind of.
I was going to say, and all the other people that have had a day or a month or whatever to celebrate something throughout the year.
Including Christmas.
We'll push all of those celebrations to 1 week. They get the final week of December every year.
Nice. No. I say they get September 30th.
Why?
Because it's like the leap year, you know, so they only get
That's February.
Whatever, February 30th. Sorry,
It's February 29th.
I'm tired. I am literally tired, okay? Can you stop harassing me here?
I'd say they get October 1st.
Okay,
That's
tired.
the leap day.
Didn't get enough sleep here. We didn't need to be oppressed.
I'm not using the Gregorian calendar.
No, I'm using the Aztec calendar.
I'm using the ancient Aztec calendar, and next I'm use the Jewish calendar.
Wow. I'm not taking this joke international.
Man.
Here we go.
Now Kitty's like, she was smelling garbage.
This cat is very odd. Was your cat Miko like this? Like just a weirdo?
No.
Okay.
He would always back when he was a kitty, he would be super wild. But then ever since then, he became a lot more calm. So now he just spends his day just sitting around on his favorite chair or something.
He's just lazy?
Yeah.
Does he still like you?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
he does. He doesn't love me like he used to, but
That sucks.
I know.
Does that make you upset?
It does.
What
Because
do
then
you
I
feel
go
like
over there.
doing about it?
I'm going to take him back.
So you're gonna take back, you're gonna reclaim Miko? Is that what you'd say?
I'm going to reclaim what was mine.
Kitty, where'd you go? She's
behind
over
the
by the Funkos now.
Are you like getting nervous?
This cat
that
is
she's
a
gonna, like,
menace to society.
she's gonna like eat your Funkos?
No, it'll be okay. Oh, here we go. This is where we go.
What if Kitty like took a dump on your Funkos?
Oh,
As like a troll?
I'd be very upset.
Would you like hit her?
No,
Okay,
but I
that's
might
good.
hit you.
Okay. That's good.
I hold. Oh,
Whoa, what was that?
I don't know. I don't know.
What was that?
I hold you directly responsible for the actions of others. Does that seem fair?
That seems
Don't
very
care.
fair. You should hold me responsible for the actions of my ancestors.
I do.
Like something that happened from one of my ancestors like 600 years ago, I should pay the price for what they did.
Physically, to
Right.
me, the person who didn't experience it, you should give me money.
Exactly.
Say, what are your thoughts on a politically incorrect Assassin's Creed game? Like, for example, I don't know. Like, maybe there's a Civil War game and you play as the wrong side. You know what I'm
Like
saying?
the Union.
Yeah. Like the Union. Where am I supposed to go?
You're supposed to jump down.
Oh.
Oh, hay bale down there.
There we go.
Whoa, I got nervous there.
I did too.
Or what if you play as like I don't know, in like World War II?
Like the bad guys, the
Right.
allies.
Yeah, like the allies, the
Yeah.
villains.
Did you know? Well, of course you do know this, but interesting fact, interesting history fact. A large majority of World War I was fought not over morality, but over tribalism, trade routes, anger between different countries, not at all involving the Nazis, because they were not a thing. Because I think a lot of people think World War I and II, because people are stupid, was all about essentially like the Hitler type thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, oh, well, it was a morality war. No, it wasn't. The only reason America sided with who they did was due to having like closer trade agreements with them, like with, you know, the rest of Europe and not Germany. I mean, there are other like little subtle reasons too.
Right.
But just generally, like I'm talking broad strokes, it's interesting how people don't understand what World War I was at all.
Yeah.
Like they just have no idea. And also they have no idea that World War I for troops was actually more brutal than
Right.
World War II by a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. World War I was like the worst war ever, by far.
Yeah.
In
like,
terms of like death count and
and
stuff
all
like
the gases and like
Yeah.
there was no yes, people can ignore things like the not Gettysburg, the Geneva Convention. I couldn't think of the word. People can ignore the Geneva Convention now, right?
that. Right.
But generally other countries will get involved because it's a worldwide agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really want to get caught disobeying the Geneva Convention, because then instead of just fighting like, you know,
Nice.
America, right? You
This
might
is
now
America.
end up fighting like America, England, Ireland, Japan, you know, like all these other countries at the same time. That wasn't a thing back then. So it was like, hey, we developed this new sarin gas that will boil the troops alive. Okay, cool. Let's like just chuck a grenade of that into the
The trenches.
into the trenches. Oh, whoops, we literally boiled a man alive?
Oh no.
Well, he's dead. Like, no one cared about the morality of the kills.
Right.
You know, like, you can say, like, well, it's still murder or it's still killing or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. But ask anyone who's been shot over boiled alive. I think most people would take, like, getting gunned down.
Right.
You know, that's something people don't understand about World War I either.
Yeah.
I mean, you know more about it than me. I just think it's an interesting, misunderstood facet of worldwide history.
Yeah, it is, and the thing that bothers me the most is when people bring up that well, World War I was fought between the Nazis and the Allies. It's like, no.
No.
And like you pointed out, World War I was more about like trade routes and stuff like that. And you know, it's interesting. And I will admit, I don't know actually that much about World War I.
Well, I played Battlefield 1,
So you know everything.
I certainly do.
But what's interesting is World War I was started with, I know the famous assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand that literally just everyone knows. But it was really started in the Yugoslavia region, with some of those countries actually just go into having internal battles between them. And then what actually ended up happening was some of the allies of those countries where countries like Germany was allied with certain countries in the Yugoslavia area. But then also like Europe, like England and stuff like that were allies with other ones. So what actually started out as just what should have been like an internal struggle between, these couple of countries like Serbia.
And elements of the Ottoman Empire, like you pointed out in a previous video.
Yeah. Yeah, the Ottomans in what's now Turkey. But what should have just been like an internal battle like between these couple of countries turned out into like an all-out war because of the countries and their allies. Like the allies of Serbia, like they were like, oh, help us out in this war we're going on, and they're like, okay, and then the other side got involved with their people, and it turned into like a actual all-out war.
Well, it's interesting because it's kind of like in school. I mean, the easiest way to describe it, you like explain it to me like I'm 5, is it's kind of like you are in high school, right? And you have a friend, and let's say someone kicks that kid in the nuts, or like makes fun of his mom or something. I don't know. Very different things, but
same thing.
Or kicks his mom in the nuts. We don't know. Like there's a lot that could happen. So this stuff is happening, and your friend is like, man, you should help me get back at him. Or like, oh, well, we should spread this rumor about him, that kind of thing.
Right.
It's sort of similar to, I mean, obviously with thousands of deaths, millions actually,
millions
I think.
Of deaths, yeah.
And sarin gas and stuff.
Right.
It's just a smaller scale type of what World War I was, where, like you said, like it was one of the first times where it was like, nations were very connected, actually. And so you pissed someone off, and you pissed off like 12 other people.
Right.
And so then those 12 people attack you, and their enemies might side with the other side, or the allies of the other side will come after you now.
Right.
It's just interesting how it worked out. I'm fascinated that we've been able to avoid a World War III. I do not know how.
Right. Well, yeah, it is kind of interesting, especially because we had 2 world wars within like 20 years of each other. Actually, I think it's like 30 years. But, and then ever since World War II, we just haven't had any since then. And I find that interesting, but I also think it has to do with just how brutal World War I and II were. Like, we still have veterans of World War II alive today. And
I just got smoked by this guy.
I think those people are, and like the general world, realize and understand like how terrible those wars actually were. A lot of in World War I, that was really the first time that war was actually seen, or that global. And up until then, people saw war as actually a glory thing. Not a glory hole, but a glory, like an honor system.
Oh, I was going to say, like, I don't know what else it would have been.
Well, like people viewed war in that sense. Like, you went to war to honor your family or honor yourself or prove that you're more of a man. And that's actually why so many people joined World War I, and they were so eager to do it, because people were in that mindset of, oh, well, I got to bring honor to my town, my family, and everyone was excited to go to war. They were like, yeah, let's go to war, but no one actually realized how out of hand World War I really got.
Everyone asked, what war are you fighting, not how you fighting war.
Exactly. And my favorite movie of all time is the movie Hacksaw Ridge.
Oh.
And not to get into like incredible spoilers here, but the main character, Desmond Doss, also Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield, the greatest Spider-Man of all time.
Yes.
He plays a character named Desmond Doss, and he... Jeez, what's with his mouth?
I don't know, and my head is phasing through my hood.
That's quite all right.
Who are you?
I'm Ezio Auditore da Firenze. I'm here to rescue you.
Let's see who winds up rescuing who.
What do you mean?
Why
don't you have subtitles?
I don't know. General?
Huh.
Down there! Stop them!
Anyways, you were talking about like the Archduke Franz Ferdinand or something.
Yeah, Archduke Franz, I got nothing. Anyways, so Desmond Doss, his dad was actually a World War I veteran in the movie. and his dad was it's very clear he had a severe form of PTSD from World War I. Also, Kitty is sitting in a box. But anyways, yeah, so it's very clear he had a form of PTSD in the movie, and one of the big elements of at least the beginning of the movie was Desmond and whatever they're going to war, right, for World War II, and his dad, who had experienced World War I, and all of his friends and buddies and whatever dying brutally, he was very traumatized by the fact that like his son wanted to go to war, and you just by seeing his dad in the movie, you can really see what war did to the people. Mm-hmm. I mean, that whole generation is called the Lost Generation for a reason, not just because of how many people died, but because of the people that came back were not even like human anymore. Like they were just so brutally damaged by it that they did not even know how to interact as human beings anymore, mm-hmm. because of the horrific things that they saw due to stuff like gas and stuff like that.
They named it shell shock, by the way. It was what would become known as PTSD now, mm-hmm. but they didn't know what it was, so they would call it shell shock because it, by the way, do you think that I'm supposed to save anyone else here? That's what I didn't know.
I think you're supposed to escort him to that yellow area, yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if there were more guys to save. But, you know, shell shock was something they didn't understand at all. They still don't fully understand every aspect of PTSD to this day.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. And also, just to build off what you said, if you want to read something interesting from that time period, the T.S. Eliot's works, like The Wasteland and others, are very inspired by the events of World War I and the disillusionism in Europe during that.
Yeah.
And how, like, people... a perfect head of things, or a perfect, I guess, storm of things kind of came to a head. So, despite what you think about this, atheistic or heavily religious... By the way, this is where my degree comes in. And one thing I love about both of our degrees is they actually do intersect with each other. You know, like history and literature are very, very connected. And it's interesting because when you see the disillusionment of Europe, a lot of it was caused by this perfect storm. Things such as the loss of God. So, like, what happened was Charles Darwin's, teachings were starting to become very popular during this time. And essentially, you had a bit of a death of religion. Now, you still had religion, but it was starting to become more of an organized group and less of a belief system, because a lot of people became disillusioned with the church and believed that, you know, if adaptation and evolution and all these things are true, then God wasn't. Mm-hmm. And so there was sort of this loss of belief in an absolute truth. Things started to become very relative. Also, I'll talk about this more after I progress the game, so this doesn't take 30 minutes.
If you value your life, you'll stand down. Never! What good is a man's life if it's not lived free, eh? I'll not go back into a cage. Then you'll go into the ground. Kill them!
But it's interesting because that disillusionment really did cause like a lack of an absolute truth belief. Things became very based on relativism, which actually meant that you had science sort of taking precedent over religion, mm-hmm. which is fine in some cases, you know, obviously, but like it caused a lot of the moral fabric of society to almost fall apart.
Right.
Which is interesting, and it didn't help that you then had all these young men coming back, and yes, they were young men at the time mainly, coming back from war with nothing they believed in anymore. Not only their country, but their God. Mm-hmm. They didn't believe in either. And they passed that bitterness down, actually, a lot too, which is interesting as well to the next generation.
What a mess they've made. Bianca, I hope she is unharmed.
I like his first thought is not his wife. His first thought is, oh no, I'm going to have to clean up this crap.
I know, right? Well, we have to, our next mission is right here.
Bianca! Bianca!
Is everything all right?
What do you think? Look at this place. And poor Bianca. If something's happened to her. Aha!
Oh, it's a sword! What a douchebag.
God, you're all right. Ezio, meet Bianca. Bianca, Ezio.
Charmed.
So, I know your name, but not why you're here.
I have business with Silvio Barbarigo. I was told you could help.
Ah, it would be my honor.
But it's going to require more than just the two. 3 of us to weaken his forces. How do you suggest we proceed?
I'll go and ready my men for battle. While I do this, I'd like you to rescue those who were captured during Silvio's assault. I cannot in good conscience leave them behind.
Intesi. I will attend to it at once.
Good luck out there, Ezio.
So I don't know, I just find it all interesting. T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, some of these are, I guess, stories that are not actually that long that you can read if you're interested in just sort of the vibes of that time period. Now, some of them are a little dense because they require a little bit of understanding of the culture, especially The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting, just the disillusionment and lack of faith in anything, and just the overwhelming dread of that time period of history. And also, this was called the war to end all wars, but there were still a lot of political tensions after it, and people were afraid of a World War II, which justified because it happened.
Right. Yeah, I think it's interesting, kind of like what you pointed out. Depending on what your opinion on religion is, I think the one thing that is very evident from this is that religion is important. If anything, at the bare minimum, religion teaches people a sense of right and wrong. Or at least it should.
It can reinforce it, for sure.
Yes,
because
it gives you some sort of moral standard.
Yes, other than just agreed upon societal norms. Because
Right.
that's kind of the problem, is like a lot of those, there are very, very, very moral atheistic people.
Oh, yeah,
that are
absolutely.
good people.
Absolutely. Good people, fine people.
And people from other faiths that are very good people as well. But the point is that, like, a lot of these religions, they give absolute truth to a moral statement.
Yeah.
So, for example, do not lie is a little different when it's just because we all agreed you shouldn't lie versus God said so.
Right.
That's quite a bit of a bigger bar to be held up to.
Yeah.
And a little harder to get away with breaking.
Right.
Versus like, well, we all agreed you shouldn't lie. It's like, yes, but...
Well, yeah, it's like there's nothing to measure it up to. It's just, well, why shouldn't we lie?
And also, I didn't agree to it. Like, so for example, like, if you get together if we have a society of 50,
Right.
and you and 40 get together and decide, well, here's how we live, don't lie. What if me and 10 say, no?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna lie, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Like, who are you to control me anyway? It's also an argument against world governments by, you're like attacking your own guy here.
Well, the guy won't get out of my way.
By, anarchists as well. It's like, well, I didn't agree to you being in charge.
Yeah.
Why should I follow you? When you cut out the religious element, it is very easy to lose the reinforcement of societal values because there isn't one, other than just because I say so. It's the parent argument, like, no one listens to their dad just because he says so. That's why you ask, well, why?
Right.
It's essentially everyone has to take something still on faith anyway. They have to take on faith that what the society has agreed that you should do is best for you regardless. Mm-hmm. So either way, you're taking something on faith and being not forced, but I guess kind of pushed into living in a certain way. It just depends on how you want that to be.
Right.
Or where you want the source of it from.
Right, and that's the thing about religion involved with World War I is that it really showed that the world needs some sort of moral standard to go by. And with like Charles Darwin and other leaders like that kind of pushing those away from the world, it really is kind of evident that like the world fell apart pretty quickly afterwards. And again, I'm not like, jeez.
That guy knocked down 4 people.
And again, I'm not preaching to anyone because I know everyone's really touchy about this. I'm not telling anyone that they need to get God. I'm not like join Christian, you know what I mean?
Or Judaism or
Right.
anything.
I'm just saying in general, there is something to religion that is very, very needed.
There was a feather back there.
Oh, there was? I missed it.
I think I heard like sparkling, unless it was just a...
Oh, yeah, there is one right up there. Yeah, there is something about religion that is very much needed to keep a society together and keep it as one. And it's because without that moral standard, people start questioning things like, well, why shouldn't I throw gas at that person and boil them alive? It goes beyond just, well, that's wrong. But without answering the question of, well, why is it wrong? It's like, well, is it wrong just because someone said not to do it? You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, it's a moral relativism and subjectivity.
And people start saying stuff like, well, maybe society's wrong on this. Maybe it's okay if I throw that gas in that trench.
Well, you can see this too because we now have statements like there's no such thing as objective truth at all. That is a statement that is actually popular.
Yeah.
Everything is subjective and relative. By the way, if everything is subjective and relative and I want your wife, why shouldn't I kill you and take her?
Right.
That is the problem. And I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying that is the belief of a lot of people. The problem is it just makes it easier to justify those things.
Right.
On the other side of the same coin, believing that you have God on your side. Let's do the Templar layer.
Okay.
Believing that you have God on your side and therefore your morals are absolute is also kind of dangerous in some cases because it's allowed certain groups such as the Catholic Church to get away with a hell of a lot throughout history.
Well, let's do this mission since we're right here.
Okay.
But yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that is worth pointing out too.
Right, yeah, with the Crusades and stuff like that.
Yes, and
just the Catholic
perversion
Church in
of
general.
Christianity.
Right.
And sexual abuse and all kinds of stuff, and the authority wasn't questioned because it was authority ordained by God.
Right.
My host is restored to its former glory. Now Silvio will see just how grave a mistake he's made.
How should we proceed? A direct assault against the Arsenale?
No, we'd be massacred at the gates. I have something else in mind. Take my men and plant them throughout the district. The trouble they cause will force Silvio to dispatch most of his guards.
And with the Arsenale drained of mercenaries, I can move in for the kill.
Esatto. You'll be virtually unopposed.
Let's hope he takes the bait.
Oh, don't worry. He will.
They don't tempt him like they did to Papa John here. They're gonna bait him.
What is this? Is this a new autobiography you're working on? The Temptation of Papa John? You were like, what man in good conscience couldn't take that opening to say the N-word? You're just hardcore defend Papa John.
I mean, it's not his fault.
I mean,
I understand the temptation.
All men in good conscience.
If you were put in that situation, you'd do the same.
We'd all do the same. Haven't you done it? Come on, be honest with yourself. Didn't you say it earlier? I mean, you stub your toe when you say it. Why wouldn't you say it in a business meeting? Come on now. Let's be fair here. Now, to be fair,
let's give the guy some grace.
Left there for him to say the N-word, and he took it.
He was baited into it. We all would have done the same.
Do I need to stay on ground level?
I think so.
Really?
Or you could just kill these targets without having your friends here.
No, that's not how the Brotherhood works.
You're right.
That's not how Mafia works.
You're right.
Let me buy, old man.
Okay, what is going on here?
Okay, we've got moral relativists getting in my way. They say God says walk on the right side of the road. What if I walk through the left?
Oh! Making citizens arrests on you.
I know.
Jeez. All right.
Luckily, my guys can see through this, and theirs can't.
Well, also, luckily, this murder is justified because society says murder's wrong. But since there's no moral standard to tell you if murder's wrong or not, you can do it. challenge those societal norms.
I always do. I always do.
Yeah, good. Do it. Do it.
What the heck?
That was like my version of Emperor
Shia
Palpatine.
LaBeouf with like a cold. Just do it.
Yeah. No, I was going to say the Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah, I heard you say the Emperor Palpatine.
Where he's like,
What do you mean you were going
Do
to
it.
say that?
because I didn't say it yet. You're going to throw throwing knives like the most armored people ever?
And it killed one.
Huh.
Killed two.
Oh, did that actually work? I thought you didn't lock onto him.
No, I did.
Huh.
Oh, you're in the way.
No, nice snipe. Unlike this 1400s gun that somehow missed that guy. Cut to like 1700 muskets, they cannot hit anything 2 inches in front of them.
Hey, Leonardo
But this
da
guy's
Vinci
gun.
made this one.
You're right.
So it works.
So good.
Well, it's just like how this gun works shitty, but competently, but then in the next game, it's like,
Right.
within a second.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it works. Leonardo upgraded between this one and Brotherhood.
Quite a bit.
He's like, alright, in this one it takes a minute to lock on. I'm going to upgrade it a little bit so it's good in a second.
Did you say, or did you have anything else to say about why atheists are the bane of humanity? Like you were saying,
Yeah,
how
I was
everyone
just
needs to
saying
adopt.
how everyone who's an atheist can suck my cho. No, I'm kidding.
Were you saying anything else about hashtag convert or die, a new movement you started?
What was that?
That was me getting down.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, I don't know. I mean, say whatever you want about religion, but I think it's just important to show that religion, in some sense, is very important to society, and I think World War I kind of proved that. Now, there were other elements to World War I other than just religion, but, or I should say, the lack thereof religion. But it definitely showed how the world escalated very quickly since Charles Darwin really came on the national scene.
International.
International scene, I mean, when was when did Darwin, when was he doing his thing? Was it in the 1880s or was it in the 70s?
I don't know off the top of my head. It was technically before World War I.
Well, yeah.
The
It
ideas
was
were
in the
just gaining
1800s,
prominence.
right.
Because it's also worth noting that when Darwin's ideas were first suggested, they were kind of mocked. Like, people tried to discredit him and ignore him. But over time, it started to gain a
lot of traction.
Yeah, traction and a following.
Yeah.
All right, this way.
So, a lot of people don't know that, too. They think that as soon as science came up with, like, the answer of evolution and other stuff like that, that it was immediately accepted. It actually was not.
No.
It was seen as borderline heretical at first.
Yeah, like a lot of things that have challenged society. A lot of people hate them at first. Like, just because it takes a while for society to change. Like, you look at that with what Martin Luther King Jr. said. He was very hated.
Oh, yeah, very
You
true.
know,
I mean, there's people who still hate him.
Right. He got literally murdered because of how hated he was.
Interesting, too, because he's a very, I wouldn't say too divisive anymore, but polarizing figure in the sense of, like, while some who I would say are pretty misguided, because, like, I think you could make the argument Malcolm X was in the wrong for how he did things. I don't think you could really make that argument with MLK.
Right.
Very peaceful guy. But it's interesting how while some people hated him, others almost deified him.
Yeah.
You know, he was almost seen as, like, this shining icon and beacon, and then any and I guess I would say any historical shortcomings he may have had as a human were also ignored by some people.
Right, like his sexual exploitations.
Possible ones.
Right.
I don't think that was ever proven. But
Well,
it's interesting.
supposedly, I don't know if this is true or not, but supposedly the FBI, or the CIA, one of the two, has... well, actually, it'd be the FBI, because that's the one that deals with internal stuff, right? CIA's like...
Yes, CIA is overseas, but
Yeah.
actually CIA also does stuff here. They're just not,
As prominent.
or technically, I think, supposed to.
Oh,
They
okay.
do.
Well, one of them, I forgot which one of them has technical, or supposed, recordings where they followed him into a hotel room and recorded him from the other room. So, and
Also worth noting, though, not to disagree with you, but the feds were obsessed with discrediting MLK as well.
right, and that's why I said supposedly.
Yeah, so it's like very hard to know what happened. But one thing that's not hard to know is that he didn't really come up with his own thesis.
Right.
But like people don't want to talk about that. I'm just saying. All I'm saying is like while there were some who were just obsessed with discrediting him, there were also those that were like obsessed with deifying the man to a point where he couldn't do anything wrong either.
Right. He was,
Both of those are
and
dangerous.
yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. Did you see the?
This is where
Did you
you'll
see the
wait.
video of
When it's time to strike.
LeBron? He was given a book on a biography of Malcolm X. And at one interview, he had it like in his hand, and like a reporter asked him, like, "Yeah, I see you've been reading that book for a little bit now. What are your thoughts on it?" And he gave like the most, like it was very obvious he did not even open the book. Like, did you see his response?
No, I didn't see this. I tried to ignore LeBron because he's just usually jerking off China when I see him doing anything.
Well, his response was like so vague that if you listen to it, you can feel like, yeah, this guy's never opened this book in his life. Like his response was just like, well, yeah, I think it's just really cool reading about the guy and how important he was to the society, and he's just like going on. It's like he said nothing about the book.
Oh, is that the meme where it's like when you show up to present but you didn't read the material or do any of the work?
Yeah, there's also
I have
another.
seen that.
There's also another funny one about with that where Donald Trump was asked about what his favorite Bible verse was. Have you seen that one?
No.
And he basically goes on. He's like, well, I think it's important. I think he goes on like, well, I think it's important to say that this is a very important book, and I don't want to get into what my favorite verse is. They're all so good. He's just going on about that stuff, and the guy's like, just give us one verse, and he would not give a verse. He's just like going on like, well, I don't really like to talk about those things. They're very personal to me. And it's like, yeah, you probably have never opened the Bible in your life. Like, what is like? Like it's very like you really could not even just pick like John 3:16 or something like just.
Well, that one would be obvious.
Yeah, like but just given a verse.
I would have just
like,
picked a random thing like Ezekiel 5:2.
Like, yeah, what does that verse say? Well, it's very important in the Bible, very critical.
Very critical. Just like you're being critical of my faith right now. Yeah. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. God and I have a lot in common. That's all I'm saying. A lot in common. Good-looking guys, both men. You know what we're doing. Leaders of the free world. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I just think it's funny when like celebrities are asked about stuff like that, but it's very obvious that they know like nothing about what they're talking about, but they're trying to know about what they're talking about. Like LeBron. It's very obviously he probably knows nothing about MLK, but he acts like he does.
Or China.
Or not MLK, Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Yeah, or China. And he's like, yeah, China. I'm going to sign a deal with Nike, though, that has children sweatshops over in China making these shoes. Allegedly, in my opinion.
Allegedly, in my opinion. My opinion is alleged. Allegedly, that's my opinion. Yeah, I know. We rag on him all the time too, so it's kind of one of those things where it's
he deserves it.
Not even worth like getting too far into, but it is amusing how that works, and also like the whole thing too with being against like the mistreatment of black people, but being okay with like brands like in Africa that mistreat black people, and also in a way, I think we talked about this before, borderline being a slave owner in a way.
Yeah.
Because you are essentially profiting millions of dollars off of companies that are allegedly abusing Africans to create their product and giving them basically nothing. They essentially are slaves.
Right.
And a lot of them are child slaves.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's very hypocritical. I think that it's one of those things. It would be like if I preached against... I don't want to name drop anyone because like it just seems mean, so like I'm not going to, but like let's say another creator cheated on their wife, right? And I like was talking about like sexual immorality and how disgusting it is, but then it comes out that I like obliterated like one of my 20-year-old fans that was like an e-girl or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like I just railed some hot young thing, as they say.
Right.
But like, you know, I was like, how dare you do this? How dare you hold this, or how dare you do this with your social standing? But then I'm just doing the same thing.
Right.
It's kind of like this guy. Actually, this is a very funny story. It's not funny like in terms of like, it's very bad. So I guess I'll say it's funny in its irony.
Right.
But there was this guy who, at one of the school districts in Minnesota, and I'm going to say allegedly, he went from being like this really outspoken advocate for LGBTQ rights, which, cool. You know what I mean? Like, nice. Like,
I'm glad
do your thing.
I'm glad you included that in there.
But he went from being that to being found to be an abuser of LGBTQ children, allegedly. It's being investigated now that he touched people.
Right.
You know, allegedly. I just think it's interesting,
in your opinion.
though. Allegedly, my opinion is he's being investigated. But I just think it's interesting. Like, even the, I think it was the Star Tribune. I'd have to see what newspaper it was. You saw it when you were over here and asked me about it. And I forgot to really tell you about it because it was out on the seat out front. That newspaper.
Oh, yeah.
What is this?
Yeah, I remember.
Even the headline, one of them is like, from LGBTQ ally to abuser.
Right.
You know, and that was a big point of that story, was like, hey, this guy like preached all this stuff, but it turned out he was like possibly assaulting people.
Yeah.
Who are a member of that community anyway. And it's a case of thou dost protest too much. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Of like, not everyone who ascribes a moral virtue is a hypocrite and evil. Like, for example, I think we'd both say racism is bad, Hitler was bad. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that we are racists who love Nazis. That's not how it works either. But there is a point at which, like, if you are, that's your entire personality, is like, that's all you got going on, is like, hey, I'm anti-racism.
Right.
Or whatever. It's like, there's a good chance you're kind of projecting something away from yourself if that's all that there is to you as a human being, is just this one belief. It's like, well, what else is going on here? Because it's a very sociopathic type way to present yourself, is like, you are one thing only. You're not complicated or a complex human. You are only this issue. A lot of the times those people seem to turn out to be not very great individuals, I've noticed.
Right.
Not always.
Is that why you always talk about abuse?
Can we talk about something else, please? Did you let Kitty out?
No, I didn't.
Where'd she go?
I don't know.
I kind of want to look. Anyway, you can talk about this. I know you had something to say to it.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think it is pretty ironic, like you said. Pretty ironic. How it's kind of like, how a lot of I think I just messed this up.
That's okay.
How a lot of these people, a lot of times the people that you think are your allies end up being your enemies. And it really comes back to...
That's deep.
It is very deep. It really comes back to the sense that a lot of people are really just in it for themselves. You know, they want status for themselves. They want to feel like they're important. But they have not gotten past their own human sin, you know? And I think there's very...
Are you a preacher?
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
So
Oh, my word.
At least I will have my own.
Well, I was going to say, I
unlike
think
the
it's
son
like
of a pig farmer standing in front of me.
Well, I think it's just like, I think it's important to say that, like, people are... Jeez. Why are we, like, just sitting here?
You should have kept an eye on his men. Trying to break into the treasury is a serious offense.
We needed him to build the ships. Now I'll have to go find another shipbuilder. Next time, inform the watch when you question an intruder instead of dealing with it yourself. Asino.
Got him.